Steve Jobs is one of the most important figures in the history of computing. Apple brought the desktop computer to the mainstream, they brought the mouse to the mainstream, they brought graphical user interfaces, so the idea of rather than a blinking cursor, an actual graphical system that you could use, they brought that to the mainstream as well. All of those things were things that they didn't necessarily invent, but they did popularize them, and they did simplify them for a mainstream audience. So their success, particularly with the Apple II, which was enormously successful, helped to define and start off the personal computing boom.
I feel very lucky. I get to be a part-time Apple employee, and I get to work for Gil and advise him on product strategy and help to make this transition and these products actually get out there, and I'm very excited about that.
It's thought that Apple was possibly weeks, certainly months away from bankruptcy when he came back. I don't think anyone knows exactly what the financial state was, but they were in a bad way. And they relied on Microsoft to invest in them to keep the company going at that point. And what he did was he really cut back on what they were focusing on. So he cut products. He looked at stripping out things that weren't working and simplifying their focus to take a smaller product line and make that as good as they could possibly make it. And a really significant moment there is him spotting Jonathan Ive as a design talent. Ive was already at Apple, and realizing that Ive's designs could help take the company forward. And between them and the rest of the team, they created the iMacs, which have become very famous computers, the candy-colored computers with the actual computer housed within the monitor, which was something that nobody had really tried before. And they started making candy-colored laptops as well. And those things, not only were they cool and attractive for a new audience, but they also looked very striking when they were included in films and on TV, and that helped to build the company's brand. And it was then, in the late 90s, that things really began to turn around. They've had this astonishing run of success over the last 10 years. So in October 2001, they launched the iPod.
There it is, right there.
MP3 players were already around, but they made it look much more desirable, much smarter than MP3 players had looked before. They made it very, very easy to use, both with the click wheel on the front and also with the simplified operating system. And crucially, they plugged it into iTunes, which meant there was a very easy way to get your music onto the device. And a year or so later, when they opened the iTunes store, there was a very easy way to buy digital music as well. And from that point on, 10 years ago, they've released one hit product after another and rarely faltered. So we've had the iPhone and several updates to the iPhone, all of which have been enormously successful. The iPad, which took tablet computing and has had all of their competitors chasing to try and come up with something comparable. The MacBook Air is a phenomenally successful, lightweight but very powerful computer. It seems as though for about 10 years they've done no wrong. The closest they've come to faltering is the Apple TV, which even that hasn't been a failure, it just hasn't been a huge success like their other products. It seems that he has worked on structuring the company to carry on without him. He's known that at some point he would no longer be running the company, so he's instilled his way of working, his system of beliefs right the way through that company. He even would decide things like the food that was served in the canteen. The whole company is built in his image. All of his closest vice presidents, the key people around him, were handpicked by him. They've worked with him for a very long time. They know how he would think and how he would want to take the company forward. And there's really no reason to believe that things are going to change. I mean, certainly for the next couple of years, they're working to a plan that's already in place. And beyond that, it's going to be a plan that's put in place by people he handpicked and trained and developed to carry on without him.